Should Europe be afraid of China or vice versa? If Europeans and Chinese will impose sanctions one against the other, who will suffer the most? This is likely to happen if there is a conflict in Taiwan. The Europeans and Americans are pretty cocky about this, and they claim that in case of sanctions, China will collapse. Therefore, they can keep China in check with this threat. Sounds familiar? The same logic was applied against Russia when they started the war in Ukraine, and we all know how effective those sanctions were. Sanctions against China is a completely different thing than sanctions against Russia. For a very simple thing, Russia produces almost nothing except natural resources, while China produces almost anything that is used in the West, because the West doesn't have much production capacities any longer. My point is that in case of a conflict, Europe will be a lot more affected by cutting off relations with China than China itself. This may even lead to revolutions in some part of Europe. That being said, let's start by analyzing 4 situations from France. Situation number 1, women on benefits. Situation number 2, men on unemployment benefit. Situation number 3, how people work in office typically. And situation number 4, what happens when we interact with state officials in France. Let's start. Alright, a bit of background about this. I worked in France for 1 year in Paris, 1 year in Bordeaux, and 3 months in China. So I kind of know, let's say, a bit deep down both states. So this is why I decided to speak about it. Let's start with case number 1 in France, women on benefits. So while I was working there, I had a very rough time because just above me there was a woman that was literally partying every single day of the week, like Sunday to Sunday, just partying non-stop, 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning. And in the beginning it was kind of hard to get some quality sleep. After a while I kind of get used to it, but not quite, because it's not really possible to sleep very well when there's a lot of noise. And I was very curious about this woman in the sense that I wanted to know what was she doing. I mean, how can you function during the day when you party almost every single day of the week? I mean, literally in a month, maybe she had 3-4 breaks and all the other days were just partying. So that's rough for anybody, even if you're 20 in your 20s, and that's not her case. She was 34 at the time, I found out later. It's very rough on you. I mean, how can you work during the day if you party this much? And I was lucky. 6 months later, this woman had the cat. The cat came down to my apartment, and she came, of course, to retrieve the cat. And this is how I met her. I couldn't, of course, ask her immediately what she was doing, but that was my plan. And I was lucky. A week later, she invited me to her apartment, and then there I wasn't. I was very direct. Basically, it was just some very quick pleasantries, how is the weather, and then boom, what do you do for a living? And she said, okay, it's a long story. Okay, I have time. Tell me, what do you do for a living? So she said the following: when she was pretty much younger, 10 years younger, she had a relation with a boy. So far, nothing unusual. And the boy treated her very badly. So she went into some form of depression. And boom, from that on, she got a paper saying that she's unable to work because she cannot handle any kind of stress. Now, I'm pretty sure that what she was saying is true. But on the other hand, if you can party every single day of the week, I am pretty sure that you can do at least some jobs. Maybe an office clerk, or maybe, work in a shop. I mean, it is rough to party that much. So if your mental and physical state can support that kind of lifestyle, it is only reasonable and logical that you can also do some work. Okay, I get it. Maybe you cannot be a brain surgeon because of the pressure. Fine. But there are many other jobs besides being a brain surgeon, right? So she should be able to perform in those jobs. But because she lived in France, she could use the system to her advantage, and basically a person which, to me, at least an untrained eye, appears absolutely normal. I didn't saw anything wrong with her from any point of view, and she was very resilient, because if you ask me to party for 6 months every single day, I'm like dead. You know, I'm just dead. I won't be able to make it. If I lose 6 months of sleep every single day, I don't see myself being a functional human being. Not in 6 months. It can be a matter of weeks or even days. Who knows? I really care about my sleep. I think getting quality sleep is generally very important for any person. So yeah, that's the first thing. So this woman managed to crack the code in France and found a niche where she could, basically enjoy life without work. That's case number one. Case number two. When I was in France, I was working in a company, and we wanted to hire more resources. I was a developer there, and we needed a developer because there was a lot of work. And what happened? We found a guy which was very good. He was, had the skills, he communicated well, and we wanted to hire him. And he was on unemployment benefits, so it looked like the perfect match. Like, the guy's on unemployment benefits, and we were offering above the market salary at that point. So nobody was thinking, even conceiving, that he wouldn't come in the company to join us. But he denied immediately. He didn't ask anything. He just came there to help us with some very small things. And when we mentioned that we want to hire him, he said immediately no. He didn't want to hear about the offer, about anything. Like, just straight no. That's it. Stop. And we're a bit perplexed about the situation, because normally when you're an unemployed person, you at least ask, okay, what's the offer? What am I supposed to do? How much are you paying? This is normal, evolution of discussion in this context. And we had nothing of that. So in the end, we asked him, how come you are so set on no with this? Just tell us what is wrong. You don't like the company, you don't like the product, you don't like us. What's going on? We're just trying to make sense of it. And he said the following: no, there's nothing like that. I like you, I like the company. It's just like that in this period of my life, I'm not working. Like, what do you mean you're not working? So hey, in France things are done like this. So you work for 2 years, then you do your best to get fired. You cannot quit, because if you quit, it doesn't work. So you do your best to get fired. Okay, you get fired. And when you get fired, you get on unemployment benefits, in which you get a huge chunk of your salary. I don't remember how much it was, for about a year. And then during that period, you just enjoy life. Yeah, the state is sending you. You are supposed to go to interviews, and if you miss the interviews, you will lose your benefits. But hey, it's so easy. You go to interviews and you just make a bad impression because you don't want to get hired. Problem solved. So you can stay home 1 year, enjoy the pension, enjoy the money, enjoy everything. Basically, this person was removed from the workforce for about 1/3 of his life because of this system that is built in France. Okay, now we move on to point number 3, how people work in offices. Well, typically in office you're supposed to be there like, let's say, 9-10 o'clock, but people don't go there at 9-10, they usually go roughly, let's say, 11. And when you go at 11, you don't just start working immediately, because you just came to work, right? It's like you need to warm up a bit, you drink some coffee, you read some press, and at about 12 you start working, and then you work for 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, and then it's lunch break. And lunch break in France is a very serious thing. If you haven't been there, I'm pretty sure you cannot see this in any other parts of the world. What do I mean by this? So in France, you stay 2 hours in the lunch break, and you have the soup, you have the main course, and you drink wine, and you have the dessert. Literally, it takes 2 hours. Is it good for the people? Yes, I'm pretty sure that it's you enjoy life living like that. But if you're looking from the other side of the fence, let's say you have a small company or something and you want people to be efficient in what they are doing, not to be like slaves on anything, but be efficient, just be efficient, have a mindset of excellence and come to work and try to do the best they can. Well, that's completely incompatible with this. You can't have 2 hours lunch break and drink wine and completely disconnect yourself from anything work related, and then when you come back to work, it's like it's already like 4 p.m. You have to work for 1 more hours, 2 more hours, 3 more hours, but it's already like the day is already passed. You know what I mean? So the day is almost over already. You already drink some alcohol. There is no way that you can be very efficient in these conditions. You just can't. So you come back from lunch, you take it easy, and if you add up the entire working day, you got what? You got 2 hours in the morning. Let's say 2 hours in the morning until 2 p.m. and 2 hours after the lunch break, which is like a bit of slow because we just alcohol and the discussion and everything is complete disconnect from work. It doesn't create a mental state of efficiency and hey, I'm going to work, I'm going to smash it, I'm going to do an amazing job. It's not like that. It's like it's 4 p.m. man, what do you want? It's almost time to go home. So this is the third case. And the fourth case is when you interact with people from the government, like any kind of, you need some papers from the town hall and, something like that. Well, it's brutal. So you go there, you see there's just 3 people in front of you, and you think, hey, in half an hour I'm out. 3 people, how much time can it take for 3 people? You're dead wrong. 2 hours later, you're still there and still one guy in front of you. Because the way people that work in official, for the government behave in France is, you have to see it to believe it. It's like, oui, c'est très bien, bon, ça va, merci. It's very slow. They have just to speak slow and very slow. And it's like, it's like 2 people on having marijuana on the beach, not a worry in the world. That's the feeling that you get. There's no sense of urgency, of emergency, of being in a job, of people waiting that, those people that wait in the queue, they have to go to job themselves. Nothing like that. It's super slow, super easy. Basically, even if they get paid for it, I'm sure they get paid for it. I can hardly call it work. When you move it that slow and you take it that easy and you have maybe 1 guy per hour and all the papers that you're reading is like slow motion. Yeah, you get my point. Okay, so is it good for the people of France? Yeah, I'm not saying it's not good for them, but there's a big but here. Somebody has to do the work, because let me tell you something. People in France want all the advantages of this of the capitalist system. They want to have everything cheap, and they want to have everything in quality and in quantity. And who's going to do it? French people? No. This kind of work is done in China. And France is just an example. I don't have anything against France. I love France. I just happened that I was there and I noticed this. And I'm going to speak now about China. You will see what I mean there. And the idea is that this lifestyle, this continuous party, this basically, if I have to put it like a diagnosis, in France, there is a rebellion against work itself. That's how it is. It's just a rebellion against work itself. This kind of mentality, this kind of work can only be maintained if somebody else is actually doing an immense amount of work, and that somebody else is China, right? Because imagine you're in France and you're working there and c'est bon, oui, ça marche, oui. End of month, 3,000 euros. Oh, hard work, hard pay, you know. And then you go in China and like, zhup, 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 zhup. People work like crazy there, you know. They have 10-hour schedules, 12-hour schedules per day, Monday to Saturday. And end of month comes like, oh my God, it's like $120. They gave me $5 extra. I just got promoted, you know. So this is how the European lifestyle is maintained. It's because China exists. If you remove China from the equation and the production has to move again in Europe and America like it was 40 years ago, my point is that's going to be blood on the streets. Because people will simply not accept going back to work. They don't even know what hard work is any longer. They think they're working in office for 4 or 5 hours a day and having 2 hours lunch break is work. That ain't work. That's a sort of work holiday mix. But it ain't work. Alright? So if the production has to be moved in Europe and obviously the production has to be cheap. I don't think the French people wants to pay 100 euros for one toothbrush, you know. They do want normal prices, prices that they have now for everyday items. Well, in that case, they will have to work like the Chinese, because the Chinese doesn't work. They don't work like the Chinese because they enjoy working like the Chinese, because they have to work like the Chinese. For all these things that they coming out of China in order to be produced in the quantity they are producing, the quality they are produced, there has to be a tremendous amount of work. Somebody has to do it. And if Europe is cutting down any ties with China because, let's say, Taiwan, Europeans will have to do the production themselves. And they are not ready on so many levels that you cannot even believe. They are not ready on doing the work. They don't have the production facilities any longer, and even the knowledge. I mean, if you're producing the, let's say, toothbrush in China for the past 40 years, and you think, hey, the knowledge is in France. Well, what do you mean the knowledge is in France or in Europe? If they are producing it for 14 years and you just have the theory and you haven't produced anything in 40 years, I would argue that the knowledge is also in China, because people that do things tend to improve things. And you haven't done anything in 40 years. Everything is in China, so they're improving things and you're just watching. So this is an illusion that, you know, the West is having, that, hey, we have the knowledge, let them do the work. We are the smart ones. We are the smart ones. We know everything. Yeah. So this is my point. What do you think of it? If it comes down to it and Europe is cutting down ties with China over Taiwan or something else, who do you think will suffer the most? Europe or China? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you.